Welcome to Triad Next Level Training. Now on to today's topic. Today we're going to be looking at the QC mono slab prep. And before we start looking at the individual items, the quality standards and those types of things, I want to talk about the tools that you're going to need to go out and do this quality check correctly. You're going to want a 6-foot level, a 100-foot tape, and you're going to use the one that's fiberglass and not metal. And the picture of the fiberglass looks like this. The reason you don't want the other type, the metal, is once it gets dirt in there, it no longer wants to work. You can always clean the fiberglass one easily, but if you buy one of the metal ones, even though it's smaller, you'll be replacing it very frequently. Another thing you're going to need is a regular tape measure, a marker so you can mark the forms. You're going to want to bring a couple nails and a hammer, and that's going to help you when you go to do the square on the building corner, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and then also to run your string lines to check your slab depth. Moving on into the items, you have the first two items like we always do on every quality check: additional items not to standard, additional items preventing 100% complete. You're only going to utilize these for a follow-up item if nothing else below applies. And so let's look and see what's listed down below. The first item is the Ballard post installed at the water heater if located in the garage. You want to go ahead and find that on your foundation print. And I'll show you here is where you would see that if you had one in the garage. And you would want to have that installed at a later date. It's not actually something we're installing right now. We used to put those in at the slab and do a wet set on the Ballard post, but we're coming in now later on and putting them in on top of the concrete with a different type of anchor and securing those down into the garage slab. A couple of the reasons on why we switched: one, the print wasn't always correct on where the Ballard post went, and then secondly, when the client does their selections, depending on what water heater they select, it will depend on where that Ballard post would get located. It's going to be at a different spot if you have a tankless water heater than it would be if you had a standard water heater, etc. The second item, building corners are square. This is where you're going to use your 100-foot tape, a nail, a hammer, and then also your marker. And the easier way to do it is to go off the corner, measure out your triangle, a 3-4-5 triangle as large as you can go, depending on the shortest wall that you're measuring from. And so you want to go out the largest square you can. And so let's say you're going to go out on this corner 12 foot on your first measurement, so you mark it with a marker, put the nail in there, and then you can go the other angle and you go 16 feet across and then put a mark, and then you can put your tape on the nail to hold it in place, pull it across the corner and measure it to your other mark to make sure you have 20 foot. And so that 3-4-5 triangle is going to be multiples of 3-4-5. So in that example, I went 4 times 3, which was 12, I went 4 times 4, which was 16, and 4 times 5, which was 20. We're going to look down the road and see what that square needs to be within on our quality standards. The next question, did the trade clean the site? At this point, we're not really going to be looking at this as much as we are when they finish the work and they pour the slab. At that point, they should be taking their form boards, any of their foam material that's left over from their slab insulation, those types of things, and they should be neatly stacked in another part of the community or removed from the job site. The next item, door locations and sizes are correct. That's not something we're going to check on this QC. There's no way to really check that appropriately at this point in the process. Are the exposed plumbing pipes wrapped in plastic a minimum of 6 inches above the finished surface? That's to protect the pipes from the concrete, and so we want to make sure that that's done. That's where the string line does come into effect. In one application, you can run the string line from one form to another, and then you can see how far above the string does the plastic go up. Footing depth per plan, footing width per plan. For the most part, unless it's specified differently on our print, you're going to have 12-inch by 12-inch footings, and that's measuring from the top of grade down to the bottom of the footing. It should be 12 inches, and then 12 inches wide. If you're measuring from the top of form, you're 19.5 inches from the top of form down to bottom of footing, but you're still 12 inches wide on the footing. This would exclude external factors such as poor soil conditions, or if the engineer asks us to go a little bit wider, a little bit deeper to where we got proper compaction, that would be allowable. But in just a normal digging on most of our houses, they're going to be 12 by 12 from natural grade. With our normal footings being 12 inches by 12 inches, if you'd increase that by an inch in either direction and go 13 by 13, you're going to end up over a 22-foot long wall, needing about another 4 cubic feet of concrete. May not sound like a lot, but you do that over the whole foundation, it adds up quickly. The next question, form boards are starting at the low point in pad. That's something that really can't be checked at this point. That'll need to be moved to an earlier quality check to where we can check that correctly. Is the foundation dimensions correct? Is it square, which we talked about a minute ago with building corners being square? Is the slab level within allowable tolerances? And that's where you would take your 6-foot level, put it right on top of the form, check it in several areas and make sure that it is indeed level within the tolerance. We'll look at it within the quality standard. Is the garage dimensions correct? You're going to use the print. You're going to measure from form board to form board and make sure that those are the correct size for your garage. Is the kitchen conduit installed per print? This is what that would look like. You want to make sure that it is installed per print, that it's in the correct location, and going to a wall from the island that's going to have a power source to it. Is rebar installed per plan? Now there is rebar that goes into the garage lugs, which here's a picture of what that would look like. If you go back to your print, you can see right here where it identifies the garage lug. It's got the letter B. You would go look at that in the legend over here and it tells you what that should look like. It's going to have 4 number 4s going each way, and then they're wired together kind of like in a grid pattern. This is what that would look like in the other application where it's got at the end of a thickened slab where you have a point load, you're going to have rebar down in that thickened area as well. String lines installed and demonstrate slab thickness. Per the quality standards, which we'll see in a minute, the concrete guy is supposed to have a couple string lines from form to form, back and forth across the slab, so that it can be measured down to make sure that you have approximately 4 inches from that string line to where the prep material is, plus or minus ½ an inch. You don't want it to be too thin, or we're going to have too thin of a slab, or you also don't want it to be larger than that, or we're using more concrete than what we should be using. The prep material is cheaper than the concrete, so obviously you want to use more prep material and less concrete and have the correct amount of concrete in. Are the thickened slab areas in per print? And this is what it would look like on your print. You notice the dotted lines, you can find it here. And this is what it would look like as a picture when it's been installed. And so you just want to measure over and say, is that in the correct location? Is it the correct size? Is it the correct depth? You'd find the depth on the detail sheet. As you look at your print, it shows you D1. And so you want to look at D1 and look at the letter D, and it's going to show you the width and the depth of that. Tie downs and anchors installed 1 foot from corners and every 6 foot on the walls. That's not actually something you can check on this QC. The reason for that is those anchors are actually installed when the concrete's poured as it's starting to set up a little bit. They stick the anchor bolts into the concrete, and so really we're going to look at that at your finished slab and make sure that they're accurate and then hold accountability at that point if they're not. This is the Concrete Trade Partners quality standards for monolithic foundations and exterior concrete. We're going to slide on down to page 3, which we're going to talk about the things that are affected in this QC. And down at the bottom, it has poured monolithic foundation. Item number 1, the True Homes Foundation Manager or Personal Builder will provide the trade partner the correct set of plans for all foundations. The trade partner must not use plans found in the box without verifying from True Homes field staff that they're the correct set of plans. Any foundation issues resulting from using incorrect plans that result from not verifying the correct plans are in use may result in a back charge of all repair costs to the foundation flatwork trade partner. In order to know what the levelness and square of the form board should be, we need to look at number 4 in the boxing standards. Down towards the bottom, it tells us what that standard is. Forms are to be within 1/4 inch square per the True Homes diagonal dimensions noted on all foundation plans. All corners are to be within 1/8 inch and 10 foot of square, and level within 1/4 inch and 20 feet. Foundation insulation will be installed inside the forms if required to meet local energy. Number 7, footings. All perimeter and interior footings must be dug into the depth and width specified in the construction details shown on the lot-specific print. Extra concrete material required resulting from not following the construction details shown on the lot-specific print may be charged to the foundation trade partner. Footing protection. This is something we haven't talked about, but during times of risk associated with rain, all footings are to be dug with the tail line installed at the minimum of 4 exterior corners spread around the exterior of the footing. Tail lines are to be a minimum of 4 foot long and 12 inches deeper than the depth of the footing. This is to prevent the off-flow of rain from the footings and to minimize the impact of a rain event. And that goes into if we need to tent during certain times of the year, that would be required as well. Number 8, string lines must be used on all form boards before and after the foundation flatwork is poured. The use of string lines is to ensure form straightness and is a true home quality standard commitment. And then finally, number 9, upon completion of prepping, the foundation trade partner shall run 1 string line front to back at the middle of the foundation and a 2nd string line side to side at the middle of the foundation. The string line will lie at the top of the forms and be utilized to verify the slab thickness by measuring from the prepped slab pad below to the string line. This measurement should always be an average of 4 inches and shall be within 3.5 to 4.5 per the American Concrete Institute standards. String lines must remain until pouring begins. Thank you for watching this session of Triad Next Level Training.